Wayne Desar joins us for the very first What's Next of 2021. He's the Managing Director of CipherWave. Firstly, Wayne, it's great to see you again. We bump into each other at every conference, but COVID is making us do this virtually. I hope that you're well, and I hope that 2021 is off to a great start for you, Wayne.
Awesome, Aki. It's really, really good to be chatting to you. Thanks for inviting me onto your show. 2021 is definitely proving to be an interesting year, as early as it is in the year, but excited. I think there's a lot to come.
Fantastic. Well, I've noticed that the CipherWave brand, you've been involved in some interesting stuff, in the fiber space, that is. You're doing a lot of B2B fiber, you are doing some B2C fiber, home fiber internet. So fiber is running through your blood. And you've got this home connected brand as well that you guys have been working on. What is CipherWave up to?
Yeah, so Aki, it's quite interesting. Over the last 10 years, CipherWave has seen a significant growth in our business. The business started out initially just focusing on connectivity. And back then, fiber was still in its infancy in terms of, DFA building up their network. So we saw an opportunity to get involved as early back then, connecting into the DFA network to be able to offer our customers connectivity. And we've grown a significant network, since then. In 2016, if we look at that trend, but going over onto the B2C space, we saw an opportunity in the fiber to the home space. It was still early days. There were a couple of leaders, or early adopters, I should call them, that had latched on back then. And we saw an opportunity in the FTTH space. So we started out HomeConnect. 4 years later, that business has grown substantially, in terms of not only just from a customer perspective, but just in terms of the network itself and the amount of operators that have come on board. Aki, we saw so much growth in the first year of HomeConnect that we took a decision to separate that business and operate it as a separate entity. And really the last 3 years, what our focus has been, because we've been able to grow these businesses now, is just to focus more on growing out our infrastructure and almost, if you want to call it, just kind of steadying the business to maintain that growth trajectory.
I've been watching your story for many years, and I've spoken many times. It's great to see where you guys are going, and you're becoming such a great success story. It's just wonderful to see the passion that you guys have got getting to this point. And I remember the early days of CipherWave. Congratulations. Now, you spoke a second ago about the infrastructure. What infrastructure do you guys own?
That's a very good question, Aki, especially in a market, in South Africa, where there is an abundance of choice for customers in terms of ISPs. So, over the last 10 years, we've invested quite heavily in our network. We offer three, main products or services as such in connectivity, in cloud, and in voice. And we believe that, the only way to be able to offer a differentiator is being as close to the services as possible. So what we've done is we've built up our networks by interconnecting with all of the FNO providers. And we then built our own data center because we, 6 to 7 years ago, saw the need for cloud and for customers wanting to move away from keeping infrastructure on premise and wanting to possibly, de-risk their business by moving it into a data center. And so that became a pop of ours as well. And then we built up a presence in Terrico, which is where all of, the ISPs congregate as a central meeting place as well. What that did for us is it gave us the ability to very quickly connect, to all of the major players in the country. But there's a big, reason behind, investing so much when you could just purchase the services and on-sell it. Yes. And that was one of the biggest reasons for our service differentiator. So if I use DFA as an example, we've invested in building infrastructure connecting directly into their business to be able to lease the last mile fiber that they own. And then what happens is we get them to deliver the fiber to the customer. Once the fiber, we call it a layer 2 fiber. Once that fiber is delivered to the customer, we then put down our router. We then do our routing on our network. On top of that, we add our internet services and then able to deliver the service to the customer.
Okay.
Whereas if you look at other providers, some providers who don't invest in infrastructure, they would go and buy what we call a layer 3 service or an already lit up service. And then they would bundle that with their own flavor and on offer it to the customer. But there's no infrastructure that they own as such. And we believe the service differentiator in this space is by getting as close to the to the infrastructure as possible, by having as much management of the network, to be able to carve it out to your own liking and create a differentiator to take to the market. Okay. So we've done that, Aki, in the fiber space.
Yeah.
We've done that in the cloud space as well as in the voice space, which is another massive market as well, where we've actually invested in infrastructure by connecting to all of the main providers in the country to be able to offer services to our customers and partners.
Gee, that's pretty impressive. And I mean, the market has changed so much in the last 5 years, and continues to change. And I imagine that the demands around COVID and people working from home have been fantastic for your business. How does HomeConnect fit into this? And is there a model for your fiber business for the home network? In terms of, is it the same as the one that you have for the CipherWave Business network, for example?
That's also a very good question. Because of all of the investments into infrastructure, we already had the network prior to launching HomeConnect. And so it made natural sense for us to be able to get HomeConnect to piggyback off that network. The one thing we did do was we then invested in connecting into, because CipherWave connects primarily into B2B FNOs. So this is the DFAs, Telkom OpenServe, which is the wholesale division of Telkom, Liquid Telecoms, and the guys that own the infrastructure in the ground, Link Africa, etc. HomeConnect actually connects directly into, I think it's over at last count was 23 plus fiber network operators nationally. So we adopted the same model, and the reason for it, Aki, again, was our view was that you have a lot more flexibility once you're closer to the provider. It does help, of course, to be able to manage your cost inputs, whereas if you're just buying the service and on-selling it, you're pretty much dictated at whatever it is that you get given to you. And so HomeConnect as well has got an independent network connected directly into all of the providers on the back of our core network.
Yeah, so basically you've got that established network already, and you're adding that additional service, and it makes complete sense because you can manage it a lot more effectively, and I guess it also makes you very competitive price-wise as well. And I'm looking at, I touched on earlier on the pandemic and the demands. It's astonishing the demands for cloud services, for example, high-speed internet connectivity, people working from home, and the whole landscape has changed. What the demands that you have on data from home, never mind the work side, but the entertainment side with the likes of Netflix, etc. How has CipherWave as a group adapted during the lockdown, and has business been good for you guys, both on the B2B side and on the consumer side as well?
Yeah, Aki, I think that's a question that every business leader gets asked. And so on the B2B side, we definitely did see a massive shift as we went into lockdown. Naturally, large workforces moved away from a central point to working remotely. So, we saw the network getting a lot quieter in terms of offices and office fiber connectivity. As interesting enough, when there's not a lot of activity on the network, it definitely stabilized for quite a period. So we saw almost like, if I look at it from a utilization perspective, we saw the business network slow down, and we saw a massive uptake in our fiber to the home side of things. Naturally, because a number of businesses still needed to operate, they still needed to bring that revenue into the business, so they needed the employees to be able to connect. So there was a massive ramp up in orders coming through to HomeConnect. across the board. And I think the industry overall would have seen it. So there probably isn't a provider who would say to you that, things were quiet, because I think everybody, was rushing, at that announcement of level 5 to be able to, to get online. One of the nice things about it as well was we saw cloud, which was a business that not that it was doing poorly, but it was growing very slowly. Every cloud provider, if you speak to them, will tell you that, the uptake in terms of their products and services was fair to good, but it wasn't amazing. And over the last 6 to 8 months, you don't need to educate people about cloud. COVID has been that enabler. So we saw our cloud side of our business, also start to spike, where customers are starting to move, their ERP systems that traditionally sat in their offices into our cloud, because they needed more capacity. They needed to be able to do things. We saw a shift in our voice business as well, where a lot of customers who had voice services to their business needed services like mobile apps. And we have a Glowcom app that we're able to give you, which you can download and just connect, and you can call your customers out from your office number, and continue to operate. And so we saw aspects of our products within the B2B space, picking up where others, where it required or it delivered into the office environment, almost stagnate. And we saw a massive increase in our fiber to the home business.
That's astonishing. And I guess, Wayne, a lot of people in March and April of last year, everybody thought that, come December, January, things will be back to normal, right? Well, the truth is we're now in January and things are worse now than they were in March. I mean, when I say worse, there's no sign of us going back to that normal way of doing things. And, everyone, well, most people, should I say, still working remotely. You look at the banks. I mean, I remember Adrian Gore telling me, he says by January, February, we expect to be back to normal. But this is the unpredictability of this pandemic. You just cannot predict it. And now they're talking about a third and a fourth wave. And these companies are now looking to continue on that home scenario, work from home, etc. How does that HomeConnect plan? How are you going to keep up with this incredible growth you've experienced? I mean, you said earlier that it did this. Are you guys able to sustain that growth and be able to service that growth?
So, the short answer, Aki, is yes. One of the early decisions to separate HomeConnect as a business gave us an ability to actually evaluate how that business was growing. And we could see it in the first year that, in terms of where the FNOs are rolling out and the rate at which, and I mean, I'm sure you being in the industry have seen it as well. There's always this healthy banter between Telkom in terms of how many homes passed they have. And, if you look at Vumatel, how many homes passed they have. If you're in Cape Town, Octatel, etc. So that's healthy, because you have a lot of investment, from the providers to be first into an area. And at that stage, what we had done is we started to ramp the business up. So I'd like to think that, we were somewhat ahead to an extent where we could see in our numbers that, we are expecting faster, growth in it, in terms of what we were getting from the fiber network operators and what we were seeing from signups. So we have that ability to cater. On the business side, it's more so around how do we tweak the technologies to support the customers. And I'm trying to figure out the right way to put it. So it's not so much, a massive intake on sales. As I said, what you're seeing is businesses more evaluating and maybe cutting down on some services. Some businesses cutting back completely. We've seen a number of customers in the marketing industry saying we have no need for our office anymore. We want to cancel our services, but we need to increase our remote workforce services. Is there something you can do? And that was the benefit we saw at that time for HomeConnect. We were saying, okay, your business fiber, we're going to cancel that, but let us bring in, we're able to serve your team there. Another interesting thing that happened, I just want to move to Aki, last year, was where we saw a massive uptake of bandwidth. You mentioned Netflix. So suddenly the consumption of services online started to peak. And I think thankfully there, what happened was the FNOs, the fiber network operators, saw this coming, and they went out on a massive marketing scale to say, we're going to open up our infrastructure and open up our pipes. And they launched a double your bandwidth offering. And I'm sure you're a fiber customer, because I know that. You would have received a notification to say, hey, Vumatel is increasing its capacity. And because of our investment in that infrastructure, it was seamless for us to meet the requirement of the FNOs and offer that to all of our customers across Vumatel, Metro Fiber, Frogfoot, and the likes that offered the service.
That's fantastic. And when you jump from 50 megs to a 100 meg line, you really do notice the difference. You think, do I need to, 20 is good enough for me. But when you're starting to use lots of different things, you really get the benefit of it, and just jumping to a 4K Apple TV, for example, and a 4K television. When you start watching movies, you really do appreciate that 100 meg line even more so. So completely get where you're at. And it's not a big jump in price, for what you're getting and the value that you're getting and the satisfaction that you're getting from that connection. It's just absolutely magnificent. Last year, you guys made an announcement, and it was a very interesting one. You bought Broadlink. Tell us about this acquisition.
Yes, Aki, that was quite interesting, and I'm smiling because just on your comment that you made about the double your bandwidth. I was one of the recipients. I had a 50 meg link, and my bandwidth was doubled to 100. And I actually just went back into the guys when the promotion was downgraded, and I said, no, I've got to upgrade I can't downgrade it now. I've been so spoiled for such great access around my house. My kids are working online. So the reason I was smiling was because, I could so relate. And I was one of the people that took advantage of the upgrade and stayed it, as it was. So, so on the Broadlink acquisition, that was quite an interesting one. The acquisition closed through July of 2020. And hindsight is an interesting thing because, we went into that acquisition in the height of COVID. And I don't think anyone can ask for a bigger challenge because we had to move migrate, wireless customers off the traditional legacy Broadlink network. And then, of course, there's the thing of integrating, a business, which is no small task at all. But one of the biggest reasons that, we felt it was the right deal for us was there were quite a few similarities, and I'll just name three. One was that, Broadlink provided fiber connectivity to a customer base, and we happen to already have this national footprint, connectivity into all of the FNOs, and we felt that it was just a natural fit. So we would gain customers, seamlessly. I use the word quite loosely, but because of the fact that we had the infrastructure, we could obviously, connect them into it. The second was, they had a large wireless presence because of their amazing network that Broadlink had built up over the years. And we felt that whilst, CipherWave was not very strong in wireless, and we have a lot of wireless partners, it wasn't part of the business that we focused on. We offered it as a value add. So it would strengthen a product set that we had that we felt was doing pretty okay, if I had to use language loosely. And then the last portion was what was quite exciting for me was Broadlink wasn't offering cloud to any of its customers, and we were quite strong at CipherWave in cloud. So it offered us an opportunity to be able to develop, growth in a service into a customer base. The last similarity was, CipherWave's go-to market is we have a large partner base, a partner ecosystem that we offer our services to, and we have, a fairly decent direct customer base where Broadlink had a large partner ecosystem of ISPs and providers that ordinarily CipherWave would be seen to compete with. And 2 years ago, we started an aggregator business because of an internal problem or challenge we had in the business, which was how do we bring our operational costs of our network down? So we were looking at ways to solve this problem. And we partnered with another ISP. We started a business called Aggregation Networks, and we were able to pool our networking. So we went to the providers, we purchased more, infrastructure and access, and that gave us the ability to bring our input costs down. And fundamentally, I mean, I'm giving away a bit of the house secret, but that was one of the deciding factors, saying there was the benefit for us to do that, owning a network and seeing a synergy in the partnerships to be able to, bring the businesses together.
I guess it was a perfect fit, and it's exciting to watch your growth trajectory. I mean, what does it look like ahead for you guys? I mean, what is this next year going to bring for CipherWave? Are you looking at more acquisitions? Are you going to continue along this growth trajectory that you're going through?
Yes, Aki, it's we've always kept our focus twofold. If I look at the short to medium term, is to continue the investment in our network. Again, in the height of COVID, April last year, we had inked a deal with the fiber network operator to buy bigger capacity. And we were looking past COVID, saying we're seeing, the demand for access, and we always want to remain competitive. The only way to do that is to be able to have access to infrastructure, to be able to leverage that. So that's one of our short to medium term goals, of focusing on our infrastructure and making sure we can always meet the demands of either, our B2B business customers or our home customers in the way of HomeConnect. The more as we go into the medium term plan, one of the things that we've seen, and you may have already seen, is that the market has been flooded with stories of security breaches on networks. And that's probably the one thing that keeps me awake, looking at, the size of our business and the growth in our business and the customers we have. It's a big concern. So fortunately, what I've been focusing on is developing a strong partnership with a security partner. And we selected Fortinet or FortiGate as the product that we wanted to focus on. So that brings a lot of value for us in terms of being ready or security aware around what we need to do, not just for our connectivity customers, but mostly our customers that are in the cloud as well. And where we can see what we can offer to end users as well, so that they can be able to, protect their networks. So there definitely is a play on security, which is what I'm focusing on in terms of minimizing our overall group business risk. FortiGate is that product that we've pegged on from a firewall perspective. One of the nice things about it, with the remote workforce and what you would have heard of as SD-WAN has now become even more relevant.
Yes.
And FortiGate has a brilliant SD-WAN product. So you can see how the synergies and the decision-making are so closely knit to fixing some of the real problems that we have right now. And then more long-term is looking at, where our customers are looking to be. Actually, last year, I attended the GITEX conference that was in Dubai. And I know you must be thinking, but it was lockdown. How did you travel internationally? Fortunately, it was in December. And so I was able to attend it, and it was amazing to see, some of the technologies that were presented out. And, Dubai has got a very, very strong focus on using technology to enable the economy. Yes. And so you had some really amazing technologies being showcased there. So there are really two areas that I basically will be focusing on. And it was one of the reasons why I attended the conference, just to see, how much movement there is. One of it is in AI. The reason we want to focus on AI is because specifically we believe AI can enable our businesses or our customers' businesses from better improving on the current assets they have. So if you take, I'll give you one of the verticals where we do quite well in is manufacturing customers. If you look at manufacturing, most of them have got a large scale equipment in their warehouses that they use, whether it's CNC devices. And if some of the, the AI technologies that we're looking at is paired with IoT. So it's sensors that talk into applications that give you predictable outputs around when you need to service those CNC machines to get the optimal productivity out of it, therefore improving longevity of the device.
Gee, I mean, it's certainly, yeah, I mean, you guys have got your hands full. I mean, and I love that technology that you just spoke about. I mean, just adding that agility and the value to your business. You know, you can imagine if those machines had to go down, what it would cost the business to get things back up operational when you have a sudden breakdown like that. And the security aspect is a huge portion going forward, and I think a massive focus for many organizations this year. Well, listen, it's great to chat to you, Wayne, and thank you for sharing the insights into where you're taking CipherWave into 2021. It's a very exciting ride for you, and it's fantastic to see the organization really growing and moving into all sorts of different avenues in the space of technology, the cloud space, AI, fiber, home, business. You know, you're offering this incredible bouquet of services. It's wonderful to see. We wish you lots of luck and hope to catch up with you in the next few months to see how 2021 has been going. Wayne de Saar, Managing Director of CipherWave, thank you for joining us on What's Next.
Thank you, Aki, and be safe.